beings. Welcome to Monday 5:55 or 2:55 or 1:55 or 12:55 or wherever you are in the world. But thank you so much for being here because you are super appreciated, and figured I would switch up the painting in my background. So sorry about the nips. Hopefully they're not too distracting, but yeah, I felt like I needed to switch it up. All right, so we are talking about psychic spies and remote viewing. We are going to talk about military remote viewing. And then we're also going to talk about remote viewing, or otherwise referred to as astral traveling, in this new frequency. So we're going to kind of talk about the old school of remote viewing and astral traveling, and we're going to talk about the new school of remote viewing and astral traveling. And my greatest intention for all of you today is that this video, this knowledge, this information, this vibration, hey, unlocks something within you that helps you become the master of your reality, and also helps you tune into your own remote viewing and astral traveling abilities, because we can all do that, by the way. Not sure if you knew, but that's in you. As a matter of fact, you're probably out of your body right now. So yeah, so without further ado, let's just deep dive into it. Two announcements, just two. One is if you are interested in tuning in to a cosmic vibration, if you're interested in shifting your frequency and your DNA and deep diving into the biggest issues affecting humanity, then I invite you to the next Galactic Federation meeting happening October 11th. If you missed September 11th Galactic Federation meeting, there's nothing I can say other than that is the one that you have to watch. It is, I think I'm still processing the information, and I don't usually say that. So check that out. Check out the old recording. Check out the new recording. Come on in live, and then you get a really awesome discount on the recording after the live. Okay, and then the second announcement is this week I have my very first TV appearance. It's not really television. It's a streaming network, and it's a streaming network that pretty much all of us aren't familiar with, but it has a huge name associated with it, and I'm very excited for, I guess, like well-known celebrities or like mainstream people to be starting to question the narrative and wake up. So we are having a watch party. I really don't know what that means. I have no idea. I don't know what that means. So I can't tell you what that means. My wife knows what that means because she's setting it up. But basically, if you want to come on in, I think what that means is I'm like getting a ping. We can all watch it together. But I think you're going to have to watch it from your own home, because I don't think we're allowed, copyright-wise, to basically stream it for you, which sucks because, a lot of you in other countries cannot get it. Now, what I recommend is if you are in another country and you want to see me on this television show searching for UFOs with Demi Lovato and her little crew, then I recommend actually a VPN. It's super easy. The one that I use, especially since I'm between Canada and the US, is ExpressVPN. So you can basically sign up for that. Maybe, I don't know, cancel your 7 days trial or whatever right after, and you can stream from the US, and you can basically get access to Peacock. So just a little hack for you. Either way, I think it's going to be really fun, and I'm very excited. I'm only a part of like one of the episodes. There's 4 episodes to the series, but like we actually saw UFOs. Like we weren't just in the middle of Sedona hunting for UFOs. Like we saw them, you guys. I saw more UFOs than I've ever seen in my life before that night. And I was trying to keep it cool because I was supposed to be the expert UFO, hunter. I don't know what they called me, but I'm really interested. It was like 4 or 5 hours of footage in probably 30 minutes. So I'm very interested to see how they put it together. And hopefully I was like professional enough, you know? All right, cool. Moving on. That's happening, I think, on the 30th. I don't know what day that is, but that's the 30th. Thursday, Friday, something. Okay, let's get into it. Also, happy retrograde. I think like all the planets are in retrograde right now, so hopefully you're doing okay. And it also doesn't have to be a bad thing. You know, retrograde can be liberating as well. But a lot of things are blowing up for a lot of people right now, so my heart goes out to you. And for those of you who are just riding the waves, then keep riding, my friends. Okay, so we're gonna go to the history of remote viewing first. I got all my, okay, I'm just gonna be so real with you. I got all my information from a podcast. So they were referencing, like, they're like researchers. They were referencing all of the right people and all of the right history dates and all of the right, I mean, everything that they mentioned was documented. But I want to let you know that we're getting into some history that I'm not, you know, fully well versed in. If you want to know more about the remote viewing and military history, there are tons of declassified documents and other like really cool books and stories and people out there who are very well versed in that. So I just want to like let you guys know that I'm not going to be your resource for that. But this is what I found out. This is what I basically figured out about the past. So, remote viewing within the military, especially, really got started during World War II. It could have been started earlier than that, but this is kind of when the documents were out. Like I said, you can correct me on any information. This is just like a loose overview of the history of remote viewing. And okay, so basically, from what I understand, is that America was really scared that Russia had a better psychic spy program than them. And to be honest, they did. That's what these podcasters were saying. They actually did have a much better, like, I guess, program for remote viewers and psychic spies. Apparently, Russia was quite ahead in a lot of things, slash the Soviet Union, and it was this huge fear. So, how remote viewers were trained for the military, this is really fascinating, was basically they were given either coordinates or they were given a target. So it was called a target. But the target was linked and associated with a random thing. It's kind of hard to explain. So even the coordinates that the remote viewers received were not actually the coordinates of where the military wanted them to go. So for example, if I drew a picture of a sun and I gave it to a remote viewer and I said, this is your next target, or whatever, the remote viewer would go to like China, right? So they were given an image that was kind of like a secret image. I don't know how that works. Like I really have no idea that whole world because I just do my own thing with remote viewing and astral traveling. But yeah, so basically they were shown an image that wasn't associated with the location, and then they were able to go to the location, which is really cool because that reminds me of what I've been talking about with quantum looping and quantum linking and all the implications associated with quantum linking, which is really crazy. And anyway, it's really cool stuff. Okay. So I believe that the military trained these psychic spies and trained these remote viewers to do this in a secretive way where the remote viewer never actually knew what they were remote viewing. Like, I find that disrespectful, but I'm also like, I've never been in the military, and I guess you just kind of respect the orders that are given to you. But, you know, the remote viewers, in a sense, it felt like they were used for their abilities and their gifts. And what these podcasters were saying was that certain people within the military were sought out for their gifts or maybe their connections or what have you, and then they were taken into this program to be trained as these remote viewer psychic spies. And so it's pretty wild because some of these stories, I mean, there's remote viewers going to like hadron colliders and like different like nuclear, stations, and they can see the wires and stuff inside these nuclear reactors in other countries, which is really cool. But the problem is that once America found out that their remote viewers can do that anywhere in the world without any sort of blocks, then they were worried as to what are all of the other remote viewers all over the world, especially in Russia, doing to us, and we don't even know. So that's really fascinating. And I think that they gave coordinates or a target as an image without actually the remote viewer actually knowing where it is, because they didn't really want them to have all the knowledge. They just used that knowledge for their own needs, but the remote viewer never knew, oh, well, this is China or this is, Russia or what have you. So yeah, so it's just a fascinating, very confidential, like everything was very confidential. So then America started to, and I'm sure other countries as well within this realm, started to get their own remote viewers to test if they could see or even read documents. And this is the coolest thing. Remote viewers were able to read documents that were like flipped upside down, hidden in a briefcase, right? They were able to basically access whatever America had. And that was very scary because, oh my goodness, all the information is now released. So then they started working with technology, trying to, and this is back in World War II era, they started working with technology trying to create barriers or walls for other remote viewers from other countries. And one of the things that they did, they worked with electromagnetic frequency. And one researcher or scientist felt like remote viewing was associated with this electromagnetic frequency. So they tried different frequencies to block the remote viewer, and every single time the American remote viewer was able to get into, and through the electromagnetic frequency barrier, which is really, really interesting. So there wasn't anything that they could create or devise that would block the remote viewer, which to me makes sense. Okay. Cool. And then, okay, then what ended up happening was there was this other remote viewer who was within the military. And this was in one of the books that these podcast guys were talking about. And if you want to know the podcast, it's Mysterious Universe. Great podcast. Just discovered them. And anyway, and so basically, oh yeah. So one of the remote viewers kept pushing to go off the planet. They're like, guys, I mean, if we're just going over to like China or Africa or wherever, why can't we go to another planet, or why can't we go to a spaceship, And basically the military didn't want to move forward with that agenda. They didn't want to put any money behind it. And yet there was one guy who was pushing for it. And, if you could imagine the US government's thinking, why would we put money behind going off planet when we've got enough problems on the planet? We don't have any problems off planet, right? So I thought that was interesting that one guy was really curious about going off planet, but it was never funded. And who knows, right? I mean, of course, that's just what we know, right? Is that it wasn't funded. Anyway, moving on. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting about this information was there was another remote viewer that began to have glitches in time, which is so fascinating. So this remote viewer started to go to the target, go to the location, but they would go to the location and, like, say for example, like a boat would be sunk, and he's like, oh well, oh no, this is what it was. He went over to Russia and he started describing this giant submarine. And he said, oh, the Russians they're building this submarine and they're about to launch it and put it in the water. And America said, no, we know what they're building. They're not building a submarine. We would know if they were building a giant submarine. A week later, Russians basically put this submarine into the water. And this remote viewer was actually viewing that exact scene a week before it happened. Fascinating, right? Same thing. There were certain remote viewers that were... Okay, that was a little bit creepy. Anyway, so there was remote viewers that were going to the same location, but they were going back in time, like back in history, right? Which is really fascinating that they started to get these glitches in time. And their science, of course, at the time had no idea what to say about these weird time glitches. Then when all of the MK Ultra stuff started coming out and reaching the news, which I think was like 1950s, 1960s, maybe a little bit later than that. Basically, they disbanded all of the programs, okay, that the military had that was not kind of like kosher by society, that was not accepted by society. And this secret spy, whatever program was disbanded along with MK Ultra. I think we all know here that MK Ultra was not disbanded at all. Might have been moved to a different underground facility, but it is absolutely still being funded, and it is absolutely still going on today, which is scary, to be honest. But I also believe well, I don't even believe, I know for a fact that the secret spy remote viewing program is well up in and enforced. And I know this because I have met some of them. So let's skip ahead to the future of remote viewing. And the future is now. Like, let's be real. Let's be honest. I want to reiterate that all of us can remote view. All of us can astral travel. And thank you, Melanie, for that super chat. We can all remote view. We can all astral travel. I want to give you, I want to relay an experience that I had. I don't know. It must have been like 3 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago. And I went over to I went over to Antarctica because I've been very interested in what exactly is going on over in Antarctica. There's been so many presidents that have gone. There's been just a lot of activity and a lot of hush hush around Antarctica. So I went there and I basically went to this top secret underground military base. I want to say that it was American, but I also want to say that it was probably more of like kind of the world shadow government. Thank you, Christopher, as well, for that super chat. And it was such a visceral experience. Like, I remember being underground, deep under this ice, and it was just all cement. Like, it was just how do I say? It was just gray. It was gray. It was damp. It was cold. Like, I could viscerally feel the dampness and the chill in the air underground. And there was all these rooms, and it was all like lit up. There was no like windows, or there was no skylights. Nothing to say that the outside world is out there. And I've been to a lot of places in my remote viewing and astral travel adventures, but this was probably one of the worst places I've ever been. Basically, whatever kind of government was there, and like I said, it was more shadow government than it was any one country, but they were doing experiments on humans, but maybe also extraterrestrials there. And the attempt was to create a super soldier, literally like a hybrid human, potentially half reptilian. It was horrible. It was like what you would experience in World War II. Like, some of those experiments that the Germans were doing, they were doing those there, and they're doing them up until today. It was awful. It was awful. So I'm floating around in my astral body, this underground, Antarctic base, and I'm going down this long hallway just to see what else I can discover. I wasn't there for long at all, like super short period of time in what I saw. This giant astral body, giant is relative, I guess, probably around at least like 6 foot. Now, the way that I experience astral bodies is I always see the outline of the incarnated body that they're coming from as the astral body. And what's cool about being in a remote body or a remote astral body is you can actually shapeshift yourself to be whatever you want, which could also be dangerous when you're channeling things like that, right? That's why you need to use your discernment. Anyways, this this astral body starts coming down the hall, which first of all kind of surprised me because I'm used to going to many military bases, especially top secret ones, and I'm always alone. Obviously there are people around, but I'm alone in my astral world. So anyway, this giant astral body is coming towards me down the hall, and he notices me, and it was all just so quick, and this guy, right, he goes like this, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he pushes me out, and he literally just pushes me out of the base, and I'm hurtling outside of Antarctica, and I'm confused because it all happened so quickly. And yeah, I just thought that was a really interesting experience. Then of course, what did I do? What did I do when I, basically got beat up in Panama? I went after the guy. What did I do when I got pushed out of Antarctica? I went back to Antarctica base. Why wouldn't I? It's such my rebel spirit. So I was kind of what? Who are you to push me out of the space? So I go back to the base, back to the Antarctica base, and I don't know what I did. I don't know if I put maybe I must have put an invisibility cloak on. I must have, because when I went back, I wasn't seen, but I also didn't see the remote viewer either. And I ended up going to this room, this small room, because I wanted to figure out who this person, this being, this entity. I was just curious, who's protecting the base in this way? So I wanted to go to the source of the thing that I just encountered. So I end up in this very small, a claustrophobically small room. There was two desks, small desks, almost like school desks. And there were partitions. The desk basically had kind of like a study desk. It had walls on either side, which didn't really matter because sitting at both of the desks were two men in military fatigue. Like I said, I didn't really see a flag or a country associated with those military. But yeah, they were in military fatigue. They were sitting in the chairs. And this is why I'm why would you have partitions? Because they were sitting back, they weren't even in the desks, and they were both slumped over in their chair, and their eyes were closed. And I recognized one of them, the one to the left, as the freaking remote viewer that just pushed me out of the base. And so it was just really interesting, really fascinating to encounter these military remote viewers, at least one of them, and then to follow their grounding cord back to their body and to recognize that, oh, this isn't an entity or extraterrestrial who just pushed me out, which kind of made me feel better, because I don't want to say that humans don't have power, because they do. I mean, obviously he was creeping around, but yeah, it doesn't really scare me. It's probably why I went back. Anyway, it was really cool to see the human body there. It was really cool to see them in action. And I laugh because, yeah, of course that's what remote viewers do. They're just chilling there. They're just these military guys that are just chilling there, slumped over, wandering halls of this base looking for the likes of me, right? And so the conclusion that I've made as far as where did the military take this program? And that's just, well, I want to say America, but who knows what denomination that is or what country that is up in there in Antarctica. But basically the conclusion that I've made is because they weren't able to create a technology, probably because they're not really well versed in quantum computing yet, because they weren't able to create a technology to basically hide certain things from other remote viewers from all over the world, they have decided that the only way to protect their assets from remote viewers is by protecting it with remote viewers. And to me, that just makes sense. And I've also had experiences where a military remote viewer, this has actually only ever happened once back in Los Angeles, but a military remote viewer opened up a portal, which is how they travel, in my living room to basically like creep on me, to spy on whatever I was doing, which is silly because I really do nothing all day. Like I'm just wandering around and on my computer, like there's no top secret anything going on. So they're probably pretty bored, but I recognized, and of course my friend Sharma reaches out to me and recognize, hey, is something going on? I feel like there's like someone who's come into your space. And I'm like, yep, been dealing with this guy all day, so it's nice to have someone else who can feel into that energy and help me navigate. So, okay, so I also want to mention too that the future of remote viewing is there's no need for coordinates. There's no need to be told something or to be given an image and to see where that image is associated to. I just feel like that's a very military thing to hide information from the people who are giving you the information. So if you think about it, like how cool is it that, like, just imagine the future of all of us tapping into remote viewing, all of us tapping into astral traveling. Nothing is a secret anymore. Nothing can be hidden anymore. We can access whatever we want. There are no more lies. There is no more hidden history. There's nothing we can't access, and there aren't enough trained psychic spies to thwart us, So it's going to be a very, I feel like, honest society moving forward when we can all do this and do this with ease. So no need for coordinates. I will be able to, and you will be able to say, I want to go to ancient Egypt today. Boom, you're in ancient Egypt. Like it's going to be that simple. And then, yeah. Oh, yeah. I do want to mention too that like years ago when I started to remote view and astral travel, one of the places I wanted to go was the Vatican. And so I went to the Vatican, not for historical viewing, but I actually went to the Vatican vaults, which was really interesting. And they have a lot of really old documents. Like they've got ancient Sumerian documents, they've got UFO documented, they've got whole entire interdimensional civilizations interacting with humanity documented. I mean, the Vatican has the truth, all the answers. And I'm surprised that they kept that stuff. Like I am shocked that they did not like burn it or get rid of it, but it's all there. It's all sitting in the Vatican vaults. So that's another place that I went. To my surprise, there was no one. There was no psychic spies. There was no military remote viewers. It was empty. Like it was empty, empty, empty. Which I'm surprised because you would think that that really holds some major secrets, but I don't know, maybe they just don't have the resources, right? Okay, so I want to get into the quantumness of remote viewing or the simultaneousness of remote viewing. Remote viewing is cool because I could be in my body right now, go into the bedroom and go like creep on my wife and see what she was doing and see what, is on her computer or whatever. I wouldn't do that because I respect privacy. But what's really cool is in this moment, I believe that we can remote view into different timelines in history. And of course, we can override the boundaries of space, of physical location and physical space as well with remote viewing. So I can go anywhere I want to go instantaneously, and I can see and experience anything that I want to see and experience just through my intention. So my intention is saying, take me to Egypt, and then my other intention is take me to 1400, BCE, right, Egypt, and boom, instantly I'm there. It's kind of like a time machine that our souls have access to. I think the main reason why our souls have access to this is because our souls are not confined by space or time, and every single timeline in history is simultaneously coexisting within the same space on this planet. And we can tap into that. Yeah. So I know that the military, it seems like they've gotten far ahead, and I'm sure that they've gotten way farther ahead these days. And thank you, Robert, for that. But I don't think that they've even scratched the surface on interdimensional travel. Of course, the stories that we hear are still really impressive, and those are back in World War II. Once again, I can't even imagine how they've developed that. But for us, we are not confined to a system. We're not confined to a structure. We're not confined by law. We're not confined by country or the country's rules. So that's where our freedom is going to come from. Like, no more lies, no more hiding. And what's really cool is imagine if you and I wanted to remote view the same time period in history at the same time, and in different spaces, we got the exact same information. How beautiful is that to actually be able to validate the information that you're receiving because it's the same information that everyone else is receiving because we can all do this. Yeah, so I believe that that is very well potentially in our future moving forward in this lifetime. I think would be really, really mind blowing, really cool. And also, if we were remote viewing the past, like humans' history, and we all of a sudden realize, wow, there's these giant dinosaur beings, or there's these giant, humanoid-looking beings who were all walking around with us back then. What does that mean? Who are they? Why were they there? There's a lot of questions that we can start asking when we all start to be able to tap in and remote view. The number one thing that I would say about astral traveling and remote viewing, there's actually a lot of things that I would say, and I know that a lot of you want to do it, and I want to remind you that you're already doing it. It's not how to do it. It's just having your mind quiet enough to realize that I'm not in my body. Okay, cool. So where am I right now? That's all it is. It's what you're focused on. Like if you had 5 plates all spinning in the air and you're trying to spin all of these plates simultaneously, you're going to be focused on one plate out of the 2 possible realities, possible timelines, possible, etheric splits or what have you. And so when we start to really let go of our linear thinking and our attachment to this one reality, we really start to tune into all of the other infinite realities out there and timelines. So it's not about how to astral travel or remote view. It's just about tapping into the quantumness of your soul, tapping into the other fractals, the other aspects of you. You're out of your body often enough. It's just about letting go of distraction. I also want to make another recommendation. This is how I started to consciously remote view and astral travel. I started with lucid dreaming. I started by being able to control my dreams. I did the hand method, I did the watch method, I did the trying to change the lighting method. Okay, so I did all of the very traditional, typical lucid dreaming techniques out there. We need to realize that the vibration, the frequency, the experience of lucid dreaming, especially the experience of being able to control your dreams, are all of the basic same foundations that we need when we start to really control our reality when it comes to astral traveling and lucid dreaming. And I guess the other technique that I worked with when starting to remote view was my experience in hypnotherapy and putting myself into a trance. So I started my career with past life regression, and then I started to realize that not everyone was able to be regressed, or at least not everyone was able to let go of their preconceived reality. So I started to wonder if I could regress myself or put myself into a trance-like state to see their past lifetimes, to see their energy, and to experience those kind of things. And then I started to do that off this planet and in different timelines and what have you. So the practice that I took from regression was the relaxed trance state of mind. Trance is beautiful because you're still here, you're still conscious, you're still present, you're still aware while being aware of other things happening simultaneously. I took my regression experience and I took my lucid dreaming experience and I brought them together to basically help me remote view and astral travel. We can all do it. And that's about it, guys. So thank you so much, Starseeds, for being here. Sending you all so much love. I've got epic new content coming out this month and pretty much every month moving forward for the membership program. So thank you for being a member. I'm very excited for the new launch. It's happening soon. And other than that, I will see you at the next Galactic Federation event. And of course, I'll see you next Monday for another live at 5:55. Thank you all so much. Bye for now.